Anyway, Time magazine also chose WNBA superstar Caitlin Clark as their athlete of the year. But, okay, here's the problem. A lot of conservatives are having a fit over her interview, and here's what they're so mad about. Watch.
Into the WNBA, like I've said, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career. But also, I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Like, my favorite player was Maya Moore. Like, I know what this league was about. And like I said, like, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important. And that's something I'm very aware of.
Time magazine recently named Caitlin Clark, WNBA superstar, as their athlete of the year. But, of course, not everyone is thrilled with the decision, especially some conservative voices who have taken issue with her recent interview. Let's break it down. In her interview, Caitlin reflected on her journey to the WNBA, saying, "I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career. I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Maya Moore was my favorite player."
Coast-to-coast assists.
Can really defensively tonight.
To long-distance deliveries.
Indiana wants to run, that's why. Mitchell.
These are the best touchdown passes that Caitlin Clark slings out throughout her career.
You've seen it here in the WNBA, just looking ahead, and Lexi.
She went on to acknowledge the incredible contributions of black women in the league, noting, "There's been so many amazing black women who have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them is very important." For some, this moment feels bigger than just an athlete speaking about her career, it's a message. Caitlin's decision to forego the NBA's three-point contest isn't just a casual choice. It's a bold stand, a statement to the basketball world. Women's basketball should stand strong on its own, and it doesn't need to rely on the NBA for validation. Her choice has set off a firestorm of debates. Is Caitlin signaling she's tired of the NBA using women's basketball as a backdrop for their own hype? Or is this her way of ensuring the WNBA commands respect and attention, independent of the NBA's shadow? Whatever her reasons, the conversation around her decision is making waves, and even ESPN can't stop talking about it. But before we dive into the twists and turns of this story, here's a quick reminder: if you love analyzing moments like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the action. Now, back to Caitlin Clark. She's not just a basketball player, she's a force of nature. When Caitlin steps onto the court, she doesn't just compete, she redefines what's possible in the sport. Before Caitlin rose to prominence, the WNBA was struggling to gain the recognition it deserved, fighting for even a sliver of the spotlight in a sports world dominated by the men's leagues. But since Caitlin's emergence, everything has changed. Since Caitlin Clark entered the picture, everything has started to shift. Ratings are climbing, ticket sales are soaring, and, most importantly, the conversations surrounding the WNBA are finally gaining real traction in mainstream culture. Caitlin brings an energy that can't be ignored. Her passion is contagious, turning her performances into unforgettable moments and generating curiosity that transforms into loyal fandom. But instead of basking in her undeniable impact, some media outlets seem more interested in.
We just watched the 4 college years of Caitlin Clark, and a question sticks out. What can't she do? We are watching one of the greatest basketball.
It's fascinating to watch because the question everyone is asking is, what can't Caitlin Clark do? We are witnessing one of the greatest basketball players of all time. This kind of resistance isn't new in the world of sports. Every time a generational athlete emerges, the critics quickly rear their heads, calling them overhyped or accusing them of benefiting from media-driven narratives. But let's set the record straight. Caitlin Clark isn't just moving the needle for the WNBA, she is the needle. She's single-handedly changing the course of the league, attracting the attention and respect it's been striving for. Take her recent decision to opt out of the NBA's flashy three-point contest as an example. This wasn't just a choice, it was a statement. By choosing the WNBA over the NBA, Caitlin is declaring that the WNBA is not an afterthought. It's where she belongs, and it's where her focus will stay. Her actions show a level of self-awareness and loyalty that many athletes in her position might overlook. Caitlin Clark has already made a huge impact on the league, and it's not just her on-the-court skills that are turning heads. You can feel the shift. I wouldn't be surprised if Caitlin wins the WNBA MVP next season. She was the first rookie since Candace Parker in 2008 to be named All-WNBA. Yet, despite all of her success, not everyone is applauding her integrity. ESPN, for one, is far from thrilled. They had their own narrative planned, a narrative where Caitlyn steps into the NBA's spotlight, delivering viral moments to fuel their brand. They wanted debates, highlight reels, and endless comparisons to keep the conversation buzzing. But when she shut that door, she stepped on their toes. Now, the backlash is starting to bubble up. Instead of welcoming a moment that could reinforce the power of women's sports, some in the media are eager to paint her decision as controversial. What Caitlyn Clark is doing is rewriting the rules. By prioritizing the WNBA, she's proving that it's not just the right move for her, it's the necessary one to elevate the entire league. If that causes discomfort in the spaces where women's sports are still considered secondary, then maybe that's exactly the kind of disruption we've been waiting for. Now, let's talk about the impact of Caitlyn's decision.
Hey, great to be here with you guys today. Do you know how we all know Caitlyn Clark made the correct decision in telling Adam Silver to go kick rocks? Telling the NBA, you know what, maybe we'll revisit this in a couple days when some things that I want in writing are met, when some of my requirements are met. Maybe we'll revisit this when you guys get closer to All-Star Weekend and are really scrambling to find a reason for anybody to sit down and watch NBA.
Turning down a chance to compete in the NBA spotlight. It's a statement of autonomy and self-direction. Caitlyn is telling the world she won't be reduced to a supporting act in someone else's show. Her choice reflects her commitment to women's basketball, and it's not just a scheduling choice, it's a deliberate stand. Just look back to last year's NBA All-Star Weekend. The much-hyped showdown between Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu in the three-point contest became the highlight of the event. It was historic for women's basketball, but let's be honest, the primary applause went to the NBA for showing inclusivity. Caitlyn gets it, both on and off the court. Her decision to debut at the WNBA All-Star Weekend instead of the NBA's isn't just a scheduling choice. It's a bold move that says, women's basketball is its own force, and it deserves to stand on its own. By making this choice, Caitlyn is igniting a conversation that's making some uncomfortable and leaving others outraged. Some likely assumed she'd play along, eager to embrace the crossover hype. But Caitlyn is showing us that she's not interested in just playing the game, she's here to change it. In the world of women's sports, a narrative that celebrates progress, but only to a certain point. It's as if they're propped up just enough to serve as a feel-good story. Yet, Caitlyn Clark didn't follow the script they expected. Instead, she rewrote it entirely. Rather than joining the spotlight of the NBA, she chose to commit herself, and her star power, to the WNBA. She made it clear where her loyalty lies. But instead of applause for her decision, some analysts have criticized her, treating it almost as a betrayal, as if she's broken an unspoken rule of basketball. It's a fascinating turn in her journey. Clark is not just a generational talent, she's a voice unafraid to challenge the norms. In her fourth full season, Caitlyn Clark has already made history. She was part of bringing the first-ever championship to her franchise. It's what she does, set goals, chip away, and get things done. And she's thankful to be doing it with a team she truly cares about. But there's another layer to this story that makes it even more interesting. Sabrina Ionescu, star player of the New York Liberty, participated in last year's thrilling three-point contest. She went head-to-head with Steph Curry, and fans loved every second of it. It was one of the most watched events in years.